Well, Matt Hadd, welcome to the 17 Media Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the next hour.
Yeah. I guess it's a great opportunity with our mutual friends at Barton's being able to make this come together. They've been a great supporter of the Wynnum Manly Seagulls for a long time, and I'm very fortunate they're a supporter of this podcast. They do a lot for junior rugby league, seniors. The guys there are pretty good, so a big shout out to them. We're just about trying to get a transition for kids and parents and that to understand. And you've done a fair bit in the game, being able to play as a junior, I guess, and then at the elite level in a couple of different continents, and then now being the head coach at this prestigious club. I guess if we can just head back to the start and investigate sort of where you played your junior footy and what you loved about it.
Yeah, well, I was born in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales, country town, but moved to Dapto when I was really young, around 4 years old, and I've got a older brother, an older sister, mum and dad, and at the time my brother was playing footy, must have been, he's 6 years older than me, so must have been playing under 10s at Dapto Canaries, and we're out the front yard actually. Not that I remember any of this type of stuff, but the stories have been told, and just out the front yard playing footy with him and his mates, and in the street there was a under 7s Dapto coach that his son obviously was the same age as me, and they were playing football down at the Canaries, and must have just seen us playing there every afternoon, and stopped the car and asked mum and dad if I wanted to go down and play.
Game.
Yeah, so it started from there. Obviously, the stories that I'm told, that when the games would be on Saturday morning, I'd be out there and I'd be probably sitting on the wing and picking the daisies out of the grass, and not doing a hell of a lot at, I suppose, 4.5 years old. But I suppose just having the older brother, my sister, and my mum and dad. My dad was on the secretary for the Junior Rugby League, and every Saturday morning I just remember him leaving the house early to go and set up the grounds and rope out the grounds, put the goalposts up and all those type of things, and then take off to my brother's game or my game, and those type of things. So had a very good childhood in that sense, and Dapto Canaries were a great junior rugby league club for myself and my family. So I owe a lot of my football career to the place there. The Reed Park was our home ground, and a lot of times didn't have a lot of grass on it and stuff like that. So, but they were the days where...
Bit of a tough old game.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of the old footage, and I know myself when I was a young fella and playing sports reasonably poorly, there wasn't a lot of wearing footy boots back then. There was just a lot of bare feet and having a go on whatever bit of dirt and patch you could find.
Yeah, I can still remember, not greatly, but I can still remember the Saturday mornings when you'd wake up and it was raining, and the game would get called off, and my day or my weekend would be ruined, and the tears would come and all that type of stuff. But there certainly wasn't many of those. It had to have plenty of rain for that to happen. The councils used to let you play, and by the time middle of winter rolled around, there wasn't much grass on the fields. But I just remember playing a lot of rugby league.
So good.
And, it was so much at Saturdays, you're training on the street. The amount of times you'd play touch footy on the road, and you'd yell out "car" when a car was coming, and all those type of things. That they're still parts of my childhood that I certainly remember, and which is a bit of a shame that they don't have it these days as much. I live in a cul-de-sac street, so my little boy's starting to get a bit of a feel of that, which takes me back. And I certainly think that's where a lot of my skills come from. Obviously playing with an older brother and his mates, but being on the road and having to not get tackled on the road or find a way to find a kick and all those type of things. So they're the things that I think our young players are missing these days, and probably the biggest reason we talk so much of a game about we don't develop our halves as much. and they're hard to develop because every player is different.
Yep.
But they were the things that I learnt without being taught it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're missing in the game.
Yeah, it definitely was a different time, and the opportunity, like, you know, I know personally 4 years between me and my brother, so he's 4 years younger. He was always pretty tough and pretty well up to speed for his age because he was kicking around with older brothers. So 6 years age difference there. You've certainly learned what consequences are pretty quick.
Yeah, and obviously being the baby of the family, I was well looked after as well.
Yes, yep.
But yeah, I suppose in the winter it was rugby league, in the summer it was cricket,
Yep.
and my sister was really supportive of both my brother and I, and so she'd be everywhere or watching and those type of things. So, and she's 9 years older than me. So yeah, the people that you do hang around as a child or growing up certainly develop you faster or slower or any of those type of things. And yeah, as I said, I look at the footballers of today or anyone of the sport, I reckon the biggest difference in them is that they don't get the natural part of the game. Because if they're not at training, they're not doing the sport. So, and there's only so much you can teach in sport that, as I said before, that the natural part of it teaches you more. And when you're a kid, that's where you learn.
Oh, 100%. I think that, you know, the distractions for kids now has probably never been greater, and the world's come so far in leaps and bounds in technology and things like that. So the distraction for their time is quite big. So, you know, it's you know, if you're driving past a park and you're seeing a kid on their own doing some stuff, you think, well, you know, they're pretty dedicated to what they're doing. But so when you sort of dapto, and then, you know, you're probably getting towards double figures, what was your preferred positions always the one you've had? And what sort of levels were you playing then? I guess when did you sort of get to the point where you thought, well, you know, I can probably have a crack at this and make a career out of it?
Yeah, I was extremely fortunate as a junior footballer. I played in a very good football team, and we won from under 9s to under 18s. We won every grand final other than two.
Wow.
So we got beaten the 13s and 15s.
Yep.
And still burn me today.
I was going to say, you look like you're still burnt.
But playing in a team like that taught you a lot of positives. And I suppose those two losses taught me a lot of things as well, because they would have been hard to take at the time, especially when, you know, you'd won 4 years in a row, and some of those years were undefeated. And but you never took winning for granted. But certainly those 2 years did really teach you the other side of it, which is more important than learning how to lose. And you know, I hate losing more than I love winning now. Off the back of a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I played halfback all my juniors. Like, I was always the littlest. I had a little bit of speed back then, and I could kick and goal kick and all those type of things. So halfback was my position, and I suppose, had that natural part of me, and I suppose it was probably playing in the street and things like that, knowing where the ball needed to go or who needed the ball, and a lot of times that was to someone bigger and faster. And that was just a strength of mine at that time, and just sort of understood that part of the game, and as I said, just had a really good upbringing and that type of stuff with our Saturday football with the Canaries, and then I'd play high school football for Dapto High, and we had not a bad team there in the old Commonwealth Bank Cup days and all those type of things. So when sports high schools weren't the go, and then played junior rep footy for, first of all, it was the Illawarra Country, which was your under 13s and 14s, and then when junior reps come in with the Illawarra Steelers at Harold Matthews and SG Ball, so played all those. And again, that was a really important part of my development in understanding we were a good football team, and we come from the Illawarra, so we were very skillful as a team. We were very fit, and we used to hold our own. And until we played against your Parramatta's and Penrith, where we ended up getting beat 3 grand finals in a row at Harold Matthews and SG Ball level. So again, we understood what it took to win and enjoyed that part of it. And then when you got to the big dance and had to play a team that was better than you, and we could tell they were better than us. And looking back now, you can see that in the years of that Steelers, we developed a lot of NRL players out of that group.
Yes.
And the teams that beat us didn't develop as many as we did. Right. So that was the flip side of what winning, losing, development can do for you. So, I suppose, again, coming from the Illawarra region, we understood how important our basic skill was, and needing to be better than our opposition at that.
Yeah, I guess so. Like you say, that practice, that grounding, getting involved from an early age and really fine-tuning those skills is something that I guess our audience could probably, like, just after a quick chat now I'm taking out of it's just, if you can have the opportunity to have a footy in your hand, go for it.
Yeah, you got to. And like my parents tell the story, when I was born, my brother brought in a footy, and it sat on the bed next to me when I was 2 years old, 2 days old type of thing, awesome. So it was just something that, as I said earlier, in winter I had a football no matter where it was, taking it to school, coming home, going to parties, whatever it was, and then summer it was a cricket battle ball. So for every part of the day or year, I had some type of ball or something around.
Developing your skills, muscle memory, getting, and I guess it's the old cliche, but when things come down to it and you get your moment, it's all that preparation that enables you to execute on the day and win all those grand finals.
Yep, spot on. And they're the things that do win those big games, and they are the things that I suppose coaches, selectors, scouts, NRL clubs, they're the things that we're actually looking at or looking for.
Yes.
How they can do those basic skills, because if you can do that fundamentally good or great, then the other stuff we can teach you, or the other stuff you can learn or develop or get better. But if you don't have the right way to hold the football or pass it, or the vision to see who should get it, or even have the ability to put your body in front defensively, or understand how you should tackle, those things is what people look for. And if you can't do it, or not as good as you should be, you're sort of not even getting looked at. Like, you might have a flash in the pants type of moment in the game where we'll get someone to look at you, but then you go, oh well, he catches the ball on his chest all the time, or his pass from left to right isn't great, or any of those type of things. And at the higher levels you go, there's not always a lot of time to work on them again.
Well, I guess if you're, like you're coaching the Q Cup team here at Wynnum Manly Seagulls, but when you were selected in those teams, there'd probably be a lot of basic fundamentals that you would expect your players, and as a player, to bring to the table. Like, if you're in that elite sort of squad, you're getting fine-tuned. They're not there to teach you how to catch and pass. Probably finesse it a little bit, but the basics, like you say, if you don't get that, and I've videoed a lot of junior games, and you've seen the kids that are just freaks, and they're the kids that are, you see them in the school photos, they're carrying the footy. You see them downtown, they're carrying a footy. And they just live and breathe it. And it's good that it, that is the foundation for success down the track.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're not doing it, someone else is doing it. So,
absolutely,
get involved. How did you go, like, when you were coming through, was there like managers, was there scouts, were people headhunting, and did you get noticed, and mum and dad approached and say, we want to sign Matt to our team, and how does that process sort of work? Because I guess a lot of our audience don't really know too much about the fine art of how things go on in rugby league unless they've got a star player.
Yeah, and I think it was very early agents or managers or any of that
Yep.
type of stuff. I think when I
Mm-hmm.
became signed for the first time, I think at 16 I was. But I look at it now, and I was probably deserved to be signed by a manager or
Yep.
whatever the case was with where we're going with football. And that's what I think about now is if you're going well enough, you'll be picked up or you'll be found or something along those lines. And where I think these days we seem to chase a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But you're best off waiting for it to come because one, you've either deserved it, or two, there can be a plan for you as such.
Sure.
When you chase it, it's sort of where do we go now type of thing. So, I don't really remember a hell of a lot of it, to be honest. But I do. I was probably around that 16. I might have had a year at Harold Matthews at the time, or and then a manager. Was in touch. We knew him as well. He was a trainer at the Illawarra Steelers in my brother's age group. So we sort of knew of him. And then when he turned into being a manager, he was from the Wollongong area and asked if he could represent me. And we just didn't know any different, probably to a degree as well. And we're like, well, we know him and we'll go that way. And again, you look back at all that now, and if I had a manager or didn't have a manager, I still would have thought it had the same type of career, you know. They can only open some doors potentially, but I was an Illawarra kid and I wasn't going anywhere, and the Steelers were keen to have me at the time. So
look, I think in the current crop, there's some kids are signed, some kids aren't signed. Ultimately, what I'm learning sort of in doing my research and working out is the cream rises to the top sort of regardless of that. And, but, you know, I guess some kids are signed now and they may wear it a badge of honour, but ultimately it's a game, and what we're doing on the field is what's done. And if you're playing well enough, then the right people are looking. I think with the chat with JB, like the infrastructure that you guys have got involved here now, looking at, talking to, finding the next players that are going to, come through and play for the Cup side. Hopefully, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that mum and dads just don't know about. So, it's interesting to hear, your insight through it, and having been there, done that, and saying, well, managers are handy, but they're not the be-all and end-all. And I think they play a great role in our sport. So, it's an interesting take on things. But, so, Harold, like, how did you get through your late teens? What would that be, Harold Matthews? And then transition to first grade, NRL?
So, down in the New South Wales, you go Harold Matthews is your first bit of representative footy, then you go SG Ball, and then you go Jersey Flegg at that time. And then it went, I think it was called First Division when I was back playing at that level, which was essentially just your reserve grade team. But and then I was an Illawarra Steeler, so I played Harold Matthews, SG Ball, and Jersey Flegg for the Steelers. And '99, obviously, Steelers and Dragons merged at NRL level. But that didn't. In 2000, I think it was 2001 actually. Then the reserve grade and the Jersey Flegg merged to be St George Illawarra. So then I played at that level. Nathan Brown actually coached me in 2002 in Jersey Flegg. And coached a lot of first graders out of that team, which had Dean Young.
He mustn't have been long out of playing, or was he still?
He retired in 2001 from his neck injury.
Yes, I remember that.
Then he wanted to get into coaching. So 2002 he coached us in Jersey Flegg, and then 2003 took the NRL job.
Wow. I do remember it was quite a quick rise to the top for Nathan, and had a pretty handy roster.
Yeah, he did. Well, 2002 Jersey Flegg, I reckon there would have been 6 to 8 of us that debuted for NRL the following year. So in 2003. And that just showed me a little bit of what connection, what trust and all that can have. And he had that from us from a junior, a Jersey flag level, which was under 21s, and then took that to first grade. And when he could give us an opportunity, he gave a lot of our guys opportunities. He was probably one of the biggest coaches that taught me a lot. I still stay in touch with him today around my coaching and rugby league and where it's going and where it's come from and all those type of things. So and now to see him helping Jason Riles at Parramatta, who was a front rower with us at the Dragons when I was playing. So there's
he was definitely a feared front rower and a favourite of. You know, I must confess, and half the audience will probably turn off, but I'm a mad New South Welshman, so loved seeing Rolsey play, and it'll be interesting to see how they go there. And I think they've definitely got a focus, which is good. So Brownie, and then how long was he there for? A couple of years, and then you got into the NRL and you started playing consistently. First, like NRL games, and how was that from that little kid that was playing footy in the street, trying to not get tackled on the bitumen?
Yeah, well,
that would have been a bit surreal.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it didn't feel a hell of a lot of difference from any of my football. You know, even here today at Cougar, BMD Cougar Oval, like when I'm coaching, like it just feels right and feels the same. It didn't matter if it was under 12s at Dapto or if it was NRL at Dragons. Like, obviously, there's difference.
Yeah, sure.
And, you have people watching you now and all those type of things. But to me, running out and playing never felt different. I just always felt...
like it was meant to be.
Yeah, or in control and things like that, which is silly in a way because I was always targeted and I was always the littlest and all those type of things. So there was times where you thought, geez, am I meant to be out here and things like that? But just in reflection and probably talking now probably makes me reflect a lot more than I have. But, I never felt like pinch myself moment. This is the thing I've been dreaming of and this is the best moment in my life and I'll never, ever forget it. I've never... Not that I shouldn't... That sounds a bit silly to say it that way, but I just always...
get what you're saying, though.
I just always felt right and loved every moment of it, minute of it, but it didn't matter if I was playing Jersey flag, NRL or reserve grade. I just loved the game and loved trying to compete and win and help my team as best I could, which is why I've loved being a coach and why probably when I played I always thought I wanted to be a coach, so I learned a lot from coaches and made sure I went home and wrote things down after training sessions and meetings and all those type of things because I always knew that's where I wanted to go. Because as a player, I felt like my job was to help others be better. And I thought I had that skill set to do that, which probably made it, for my size and all that, to be able to play at the NRL level, So I've just really enjoyed that part of it. But, obviously it was a dream come true and everything I wanted to do. And the amount of people that have worked so hard to help you and your family and all those type of things, like all that rolled in makes it extremely special. And,
no doubt.
But, I never felt like I was out of my depth or any of that type of stuff. And, loved the ride and obviously it all goes too quick.
Well, I can imagine, but, getting that opportunity, like you say, you work through those periods and each area that you're currently in prepares you for the next and so on and so forth. And reflecting back, like I'm getting a big sense of drive and desire, but also it sounds like you backed yourself in pretty well, like all those years of practicing and playing and I just having the ability to be able to back yourself and say, I do belong. I think that's probably lost a little bit on the kids of today because they're really worried about getting to their destination tomorrow. Like, okay, well, I play footy, so I want to play for... And there's a lot of kids that are saying, I want to play for the Broncos, I want to play for St George, I want to play for, Melbourne Storm. And I guess they're great dreams to have, but I would think that from what you've said, you enjoyed every step of the way and, maybe... There's some kids that say we need to play for the Seagulls and we need to play Malmaninga and or we just need to play Div 2 for our local club with our mates and we need to win a grand final and, you know.
Yeah, I'm going home at Christmas, so I'll ask my mum and dad when I'm there. But talking to you now, and I don't even remember. I would have had goals to play NRL. Like, there's no in summer, I would have thought I was going to play for Australia in cricket. You know, I would have had that, but I don't ever remember thinking that's all I want to do. Or that's all I want to go. I was always, I want to play now. I want to play with my mates at Dapto, or I want to play with my mates at school, or I want to play SG ball, or whatever it was, whatever game it was, or whatever I was in the moment in. That's all I cared about, and that was my NRL at the time.
Absolutely.
So, but I do see that in a lot of people now, and you do see it in a lot of things that people tell you should have goals and you should strive for them and all that, which is absolutely you should, but you can't forget now. You can't forget that what I do today has got to be better than yesterday. And we all think about what can I do in 6 years' time. So, yeah, and that's probably always my message to my playing group. I always talk about now and how we get better now, how we win today. We talk about refusing to come last. We don't. You might get beat. Not every team can win, but don't come last.
No.
And we want to be better than what we were yesterday. So that's what we talk about. We never talk about finishing top 4 or any of those type of things, because we all want to do that, right? And every club wants to.
But I think that mindset, and whether you're in business, whether you're in sport, whatever it might be, if your main goal is to improve on yesterday, then the rest will come if you continue on that journey. Like, one thing you hear about business and sport and schooling and education, all that, is the hard workers get the rewards. And, you know, I guess it just comes for an organisation. I've been fortunate to be involved in some great businesses, and those businesses with concise leadership and that continual look on improving is what separates the good from the great.
Spot on. And businesses and sport are so together, aren't they? Like, you can see so many similarities to each other. And but at the end of the day, I'm just a believer in you get what you deserve. And you're either going to get it or you're not.
Correct.
Thinking about it or dreaming about it doesn't necessarily help you.
No.
If you can work hard every day to strive for your goal, then that's
100%.
great. Like, you got to go for that. But I don't think I had that. I was always about today, and I've got to be better today than I was yesterday. And like, I could hear the outside noise with how small I was and all those type of things, but it didn't faze me, because I never thought about I'm going to be this size to play NRL. I was just this size to play that game. And then when I got to the NRL, I had guys inside and outside that would look after me, and all those type of things. So, I think we just get caught up too much on the destination, which you spoke about. But it's all about what's going to happen in years to come, and years to come might never come. You might change, like in a year's time, you might change and you're in the NFL or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so you just got to concentrate on now, and how today's better than yesterday, and tomorrow might not come. So why worry about it?
Yeah, well, great story, great news, great information. Resilience is the thing to do. But all right, so playing in the NRL and it is, what a lot of our audience definitely wants to do. What do you think the difference is between, say, playing NRL in Australia versus your time in the UK playing? Like, we all hear about the English Super League now, and we even have some players that go over there at the start of their career, come back, play NRL, and some go there to finish off their career. So as Aussies, we always think we've got the best teams and the best games and we're the best of everything, but is there a big difference between those two comps and challenges?
Well, at the time when I went over, there was a huge difference in the speed of the game. The wrestle and things like that had sort of just come into NRL. But there was none of that in England. It was very touch footy style. Like, it was still, the kid in the the backyard playing. You know,
Yep.
you made your tackle, you got up, you went to marker and let the attack play on. You know, that was a big difference. The biggest difference that's still there now is that they just don't have the quality of teams.
Yep.
So they'd possibly have 4 teams, 5 teams. I haven't followed it too closely of late, but they would have that amount of number that could compete in our NRL, and then they'd have your back half of the team that are sort of the easy games, I suppose.
Yep.
Where in the NRL, there's no easy game.
No.
You know, if you know, I know West Tigers have got the wooden spoon the last couple of years, but they've won their fair share of games, and they've made teams work really hard to beat them and all those type of things. So it's just that difference, I think, which is why you probably see them play a lot longer over there and things like that. That the competition's probably not as hard week in, week out. But it was a great life experience for me, and
I can imagine.
You know, I got coached over there by Peter Sharp, so another Australian coach that I'm still close with today and talk to, and taught me a lot. And he was just a great relationship type of coach, and so it's just, I suppose, the differences
Part of the journey.
Yeah, part of the journey, which again was at the time I thought was the best thing that I was ever doing, and I didn't know I'd do anything differently, and so just a learning part to my career.
So NRL bound players, is that a pathway, do you think, for you know, early 20s that might be in cup squads, or you know, do you think obviously the cup feeder process is extremely good, and that's one hell of a comp. You know, what sort of pathways would you suggest for people that might not be in an NRL top 30?
Yeah, well, again, you've just got to be the best.
Yep.
Of your best.
Yep.
You don't have to be the best in the team, but you just got to be the best that you can be day in, day out at whatever level you're playing. Because there's people watching.
Yes. Yeah,
regardless
that's
of what.
one thing I'm learning, and one of the things we want to share with the audience is that there are people watching.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's at every level.
Yep.
You know, and then it doesn't matter if you're not there watching. You'll get told about it at some stage. Like if you're in the game, you know, like
Sure.
So I might not be down, you know, at Kitchener Park one Saturday, but 3 weeks later, someone might be ringing me, telling me about this game or that kid, or good, bad, or indifferent. You know, so all those things come around, and then we've all got our relationships that we trust, and we understand what their opinion is, and sometimes it's completely different to mine, sometimes it's exactly the same. So it doesn't matter what feedback I get either, because then I can work out if it's...
Well, it's information, isn't it?
That's right.
It's information. You can do what you want with that information. I mean, last year, going around with the Cyril squads, I saw you at a few of the games, so you obviously... vested interest in looking at, you know, tomorrow's team for yourself. So that's good to know, and you're 100% right. And the one thing that I'm learning, and the one thing I guess the audience needs to understand, is that people are watching all the time. Like, your son or daughter might be on a list somewhere, and there's a network that goes on behind the scenes, and information gets shared in that network. And so, you know, I joked with JB and I said, look, you know, I think a lot of the parents say to the kids on the way to the game, oh, there could be a scout there today, to try and get the best out of them and pump them up. But I guess the reality is there could possibly be any other day ending in Y.
Well, if there's not a scout there, the scout has someone there. Yeah. Or the scout knows someone there that will talk to him at some stage, him or her, or there's video.
Yep.
You know, so it gets seen regardless. And I suppose the biggest thing that I always talk about in my coaching, or what I look for, is I look for what their strengths are. And that's what I care about. I don't care about their weaknesses as such, because everyone's got them. And it'd be rude for you to just diss someone because of their weakness. You know, I had mine and all those type of things. So I try and find the strength in players and how that can adapt to whatever level they're going to play at or play at or not play. But it's when they go away from that strength or that strength isn't as good as it was weeks before or whatever. That's the stuff I'm looking for because that's right, because that's the player that we need. We need someone to be at their best, week in, week out, and that helps us have trust in them to play for us or to even say bypass us and go somewhere else because we think highly of them in that sense, you know. But when you've got inconsistency or you've got too much negative in your game, that's when you're not going to succeed anywhere, you know. And I think everyone just looks at trying to be the best player in the park, and you don't have to be the best player in the park to get picked up. Yeah,
it's funny. I had the benefit of being involved in a activation with work that was involved with some army guys from the SAS.
Yep.
And I remember one night over a couple of cold beverages, one of the guys was talking about when he went through the selection process. And his whole game was that he just focused on one person and he focused on being stronger, faster and better at all the skills of that one person. And now they never knew that he was concentrating on them.
Yep.
But that was his game. And then when it came to getting cut, that person to get cut, he'd pick someone new. And he said that was an interesting way, which I thought was fantastic. Because he said, you don't have to beat 30, you just got to beat one. It's like, you don't have to outswim the shark, you just got to outswim the slowest.
Yep.
So I think it's important that you're saying about not having to be the best, but just be consistent. And I guess that comes with engagement too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They wander off from the game because something didn't go their way and they lose engagement, therefore they lose focus on being consistent.
Spot on. And that's what we talk at this club now. We talk about not coming last.
Yep.
You know, and that's what your mate was wanting to be.
100%.
He was thinking, and he might have been wrong at the time, but his mindset, or I assume, was thinking, if they're going to cut one, there's going to always be one behind me.
Correct.
And they might have cut 5, so he might have got
100%.
burnt. But that was his mindset.
Yep.
And that's the same mindset that I'm trying to deliver to our playing group here in our club about we just don't want to be last. And you'll talk to a lot of people that will say you can't talk in that language because it's a negative mind because you're talking about last and people want to talk about winning or first or any of those type of things. But I'm a big believer in not everyone can, especially in our sport, not everyone can win the grand final. No, only one team can. So if we don't win it, have we failed? And we can't look at it that way.
No.
So we're on a journey, and the first year here we got beat in the prelim. Second year here we got beat in the first week of the semis. Now, we didn't finish where we wanted to or what we wanted to do, but if we're still on the journey of not coming last, in a sense, and driving to win, because we all want to win, and so like that's what we're after. But if we don't win, and it's not failure, and as long as we're getting better each week, each day, and each week, and each season, and that's the plan for us, you know.
Well, you know, like you say, it is a comp. Someone's got to come last. Someone's going to win the trophy, and ultimately, I guess, I understand what you're saying with people, that mindset of, you know, talking about coming last and, you know, but I can look at it the other way too and going, that's a motivation. So, you know, we talked about the Tigers having the spoon the last few years. Now, surely there wouldn't be one person in that organisation that is comfortable with that or happy about that. But ultimately that competition is so good that there has to be someone that comes last. We weren't that long ago, the Broncos were getting the wooden spoon.
But how do you come last and then win it the next year?
Yeah.
Very hard to do that.
Oh.
You know, and I talk to the players here, right? So when you do fitness drills, someone's got to come last. Right? And when you do skills, someone's got to be last in it or worst, or like, you know, we talk as last. But don't be last all the time.
No.
So when you go and get a drink, be first to the drink then. You know what I mean? Don't be last. And that's what I look at for my players, because no one's as fit as our fittest bloke. That's the hardest thing. So he's always going to come second to him.
Yes.
which is fine.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
don't always come last to the whole
Yep.
group. And if you are last in that, well, make sure you're first in the gym or first somewhere else,
Yep.
and not even first, to be fair. Like, just don't be last.
Yeah, be better than where you were. Like
That's right.
And that's the thing. You know, I reckon after 10 years of filming these young kids playing footy, they come in all shapes and sizes. So someone who is an absolute, you know, I remember in the comp that we were filming, there was an absolute standout, 11 and 12 years old. He was fast, he was strong, and everyone was in awe of him. He could just score tries at will, and in the end, he just ended up taking a teammate with him and passing him the ball over the line so they could have some scores, tries. But it didn't take too long for him to come back to the pack.
Yep.
And then when he comes back to the pack, they're just another one of those players. So, you know, like they could be in your drills and they could be thinking they're not that fit today.
Yep.
But then a bit of dedication, a bit of effort and genetics and changing, and then they're right back in it.
Yep.
The biggest thing is, I guess, is if you love it, don't give up.
That's right. And it doesn't matter how good, bad, or fit, slow you are. Someone either doesn't need you
Yep.
or someone wants you, you know.
Yep.
And that best kid, right, like, could be playing somewhere and the scouts just don't need that type of player
Yeah. Yep.
because they've got 1, 2, 3 of them already. So
Yep.
it doesn't mean that because you're playing in that team and he doesn't get picked up, that you're never going to get picked up.
Yeah, correct.
They might be looking at the body shape of you or whatever
Yep.
the case is.
Yep.
So there's so many times I hear stories of that type of stuff. I'm the best, or he's the best in the team, or she is, and not getting picked up. Well, it's not always you. Sometimes it's where they're
correct.
looking.
Correct.
And then there's others that are never looked at in their peers or the parents
Yes.
or any of that.
Yep.
But a club or someone thinks that's the player we need in our footy
Yep.
club because we know that he's best and worst are so close together.
Yep.
We can work on the other things or
Yeah.
any of that type of stuff. So sometimes it's where you are at the moment.
Yep. On your actual journey.
That's right.
Yeah.
But my advice would be don't have too big of a difference between your best and worst,
Yeah.
and just work hard on your strength because at the end of the day, that's the thing that's going to get you noticed.
Yep.
But as soon as your strength goes backwards, we know, my feeling is you're not working on that anymore.
Yeah.
You got comfortable.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't want that player, you know?
Yep.
So they're the things that, just stay in today,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and that, you know, that's a great, I guess, insight for people to be able to go, you know, your time will come. One thing I'm learning is hard work, good attitude and dedication. Would I be right in saying that they nearly beat talent every day? If you got talent and you got those things, well, you know, you're one of the greats. But
Yep.
if you've got none of those things but you're super talented, they tend to fall by the wayside. Is that sort of what you would sort of suggest? Or?
Yeah, well, dedication and drive and the ability to keep working on your game.
Yep.
You're never going to have a negative feeling towards your
No.
career.
No.
You might not have enough ability to get there,
Yep.
but you'll look back in 10, 15 years' time and go, well, I didn't have the ability to get
There was
there.
nothing.
You know what I mean?
There was nothing I left on the table.
Yeah.
I did everything that I could possibly be.
That's right. So, and then anyone who's at the top always has them.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah,
know what I
no
mean?
doubt.
So,
absolutely.
It's certainly what you've got to have,
Yep.
and having talent helps. But yeah, just because you've got talent doesn't mean you're going to make it.
Yep.
Yep. And that's what I was sort of saying earlier. Like sometimes that talent, the club or whoever might already have 15 of them.
Yes. Yep.
You know, and
Well, I guess at the moment, for example, like a real life example is the Broncos, and you guys feed into the Broncos and work very closely with them. They got a lot of hookers and they got a lot of halves.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, it's only 17 people can play the game,
that's right.
and you have, they call it a top 30 for a reason, but you know you could be the number one halfback at another club, but you could be 4 or 5 on the list at the Brisbane Broncos.
Yep.
So, you know.
Well, Tristan Saylor's a great example for that,
Yeah,
you know. And
yep.
I coached Tristan down the Dragons, and I have a lot of time for him. He's a very good footballer, and but he had Reece Walsh in front of him.
Yeah.
Everyone's got someone in front of them.
Yes.
And
Yep.
sometimes it's a lot more than one, but
Yep.
you've always got someone going better than you.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose back to, you know, your SAS guy
Yeah,
or our terminology here, just make sure that there's someone behind you.
Yeah, correct.
And that's what Tristan's done. Tristan was always one of the best players in the Q Cup, and everyone would always go, oh, he should be playing first grade. He couldn't at Broncos because Reece Walsh was ahead of him.
Yeah,
but he'll
correct.
go over to Super League now, and he'll be one of the best players over there.
Yeah.
And he's just finding where his journey's going.
Yep. And then post that, who knows where he ends up?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
The Q Cup side of things, obviously, that's a very tough comp. You've got the other version of that in Sydney and New South Wales, but Southeast Queensland seems to have a lot of really good footballers, and you've got yourself a great squad this year and have had good squads in the past. So where do you see the differences between playing, say, Q Cup and then NRL? Is there a lot of difference between the two, or?
No, there's not a lot of difference between the playing, except talent probably is.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
But when the NRL players drop back to our comp, they're not always just necessarily the best player on the field, and sometimes you've got better or the opposition has better.
Yep.
But they've been given the opportunity for one reason or another. Yep. Their dedication and their ability to take opportunities is probably got them ahead of the player in Q Cup or New South Wales Cup. And then that just gets bigger each time that the Q Cup player doesn't have the full-time training.
Yep.
Because they've got to work. You know, we train 3 nights a week, like the NRL training 5, 6.
Yeah.
They've just got more resources to get better or to stay better. So it's just, when you get the opportunity, you can't let it go.
You just got to get in.
You just got to give it your all.
Go hard.
Yep. And as I said, you'll be disappointed when it finishes, but in 15, 20 years, you'll be able to look back and understand why it didn't work or why it did.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And just make sure at that stage that you at least went, well, it was my talent.
Yep.
It wasn't because I
Yeah.
did the wrong thing.
Correct. And I think you've only got to look at the roster and some of the players that have come through this organisation and gone on. It's obviously a good place to breed good players and dedicated players. And, I think there's a lot of people that would love to play Q Cup. And, the BRL program's coming in here this year. So that can only bolster the amount of players that you've got at your resource.
Yep. And it's always a hard one talking about our club and our level, because there's a level above us. And I talk about the player living in today and not looking too far ahead, but if they want to be the best they can be, there's a level above us. So they might jump us or or leave us or move away from us. We just need to make sure that they get every opportunity that they can at our club, and that we have the ability to bring them back to our club if they don't make it where they're heading. So
100%.
But our club want to be the best. We want to win. We want our juniors to win. We want to keep striving for them. But the biggest pat on the back for us is them playing NRL.
Oh, no doubt.
And
no doubt.
And or getting an NRL contract. That's what I'm here for.
Sure.
To help those players from our area do that. And then if they can't do that, can they be good enough to play in our jumper? Our jumper still needs to have above and beyond that as well, So you've got to earn everything,
You do.
And but I'm from a place that looked after our juniors.
Yep.
So I want to do the same here, you
Yes.
know.
Yep.
So they're just got to remember, go for today,
Yep.
and we'll hear about you. We'll know about you.
Yep.
We'll be pushing you.
Yeah,
We
that's
we might
awesome.
even be talking about you to an NRL club that you don't even know that we're
Sure.
you know, doing
Yep.
that. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, 100%.
So you never know who's
Yeah.
talking about you, who's
Yep.
looking at you. Someone always is.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ever think they're not. You
Yeah.
know, because
well,
your name's getting brought up somewhere.
That's that's great advice, and I think the underlying thing is that there are people out there watching and parents that think that the parents are probably the unsung heroes in some of these careers, because there's many of hours spent waiting and talking and looking and watching, and that's a good thing. So don't give up, work hard, and take today's opportunity as it's going to be your last.
Yeah.
And get into it.
And like I've got one little fella, he's 4.5 years old.
Yep.
The amount of stuff that we do with him, I'll think back and go, how did my mum and dad do that?
Yeah.
You know, so all the
Yep.
parents do a lot for their kids.
Yep.
The-
Absolutely.
The biggest thing's just making sure you support them and don't put pressure on them, and let them have fun.
Yep.
And when they look too far ahead, bring them back to the moment and
Yep.
enjoy trying to win.
Enjoy today.
Yeah.
Enjoy, winning that next game, and
Yep.
and work on being a good person too.
Yeah.
Because ultimately there's a lot more than just the playing. We see that there's a lot of other things that NRL players and coaches and staff have to do that isn't playing the game of football.
Yep.
So the good people, they tend to rise to the top. So
Well, they definitely do,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
there's so many players out there in any sport that are exactly the same level,
Yep.
but being the good person or coming from a good family or
Yep.
understanding the rights and wrongs of that,
Yep.
they certainly do
Yep.
get put above the line.
Yeah. 100%.
And it doesn't matter what background you've come from
Yeah.
or what your life was, as long as you can resemble a good person,
Yep.
clubs will help you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you've come
absolutely.
through the best of childhoods or the worst of childhoods. That's the great thing about our game
Yes.
and our people in our game.
Yep.
We don't discriminate to people or look down on them or wherever
No.
they are.
No.
We're all about how can we help you.
Yeah.
And then we'll learn about your family or your upbringing, and either work out, do we need to help more or less, or whatever
Correct.
the story is.
Yeah. How can we do it? Like, I guess ultimately that's how we make good people in
Yep.
the world, and whether it be sport, business, or whatever, the art of manners is never going to go out of fashion. So that's good. Well, Matt, I really appreciate the opportunity that you've given us. I think it's awesome. Your journey is spectacular. I mean, I think there's a lot to take out there. A lot of kids can look at that and go, well, and I can just see you got a genuine love for the game, and being able to play at the highest levels probably brought a lot of joy to yourself and your family, and now being coaching here is, an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, it's been a great ride, and
Yep.
It's something I did dream of.
Yeah.
In a way,
Yep.
and probably talking to you today's brought a lot of
Good.
love back for it, which is
Yep.
really good, and looked at how I did get there, and
Yep.
and a lot of that comes from my family and
Yep.
and friends, and the love for the game, and
Yeah,
always
that's awesome.
wanting to get better. So.
Well, hopefully we wish you all the success for 25, and hopefully the Gulls get where they need to be. And I know there's a lot of people in the Wynnum area that this is their footy team. They love it. They turn out in droves, and it's a great thing for our area. So all the best, and thank you so much. And we'll be watching very keenly.
Terrific. Thanks very much for having me.
Cheers, mate.